Layla vividly remembered the last night in her home. The war had crept closer to the town where she grew up, destroying everything she had known and loved. The sound of explosions and gunfire echoed through the darkness as she and her family fled, leaving behind a life built over generations. Fear gripped her heart, but she knew there was no other choice. Fleeing was their only chance for survival. Memories of Layla's childhood, running freely in the fields, laughing with friends under the hot sun, now seemed distant, almost as if they belonged to another life. The country where she was born and raised lay in ruins, and her soul bore the heavy weight of war. Her husband had been taken by enemy forces, and she didn't know if he was still alive. With her heart shattered, Layla held tightly to her daughter Amina's hand as they crossed the border in the dead of night, heading toward an unknown future. The escape wasn't easy. The path was treacherous, and each step seemed to bring new dangers. Layla, Amina, and a small group of refugees traveled for days on end, enduring cold, hunger, and the constant fear of being captured. Yet despite the despair and pain, something inside her pushed her to keep moving forward. Perhaps it was the instinct of a mother, the need to protect her daughter, or maybe it was a flicker of hope, that same hope that, despite everything, still glowed within her heart. After weeks of a grueling and dangerous journey, Layla and Amina finally arrived in a foreign country that offered them refuge. The relief of being safe was immense, but it quickly mingled with a feeling of being completely lost. Everything around them was unfamiliar: the language, the culture, the people. Layla could barely communicate, and without resources, she relied on shelters and the help of humanitarian organizations. The first night in the new country was spent in a crowded reception center. Layla looked at Amina, who slept exhausted in her arms, and felt a mixture of gratitude and despair. They were safe, but what came next? How would they rebuild their lives in a place where they knew no one, and where every word spoken seemed like an incomprehensible riddle? But it was there, in that temporary shelter, that Layla met Nadia, a volunteer who spoke her language and had a similar story. Nadia had arrived in the country as a refugee years earlier and now dedicated her time to helping those who, like her, needed a new beginning. With Nadia's support, Layla began to find her way in this new world. Each day, Layla took a new step towards rebuilding her life. With the help of Nadia and other volunteers, she began learning the local language, essential for finding work and integrating into the new society. Amina was enrolled in school, and to Layla's surprise, her daughter adapted quickly. Children have a unique ability to find joy even in the most difficult circumstances, and soon Amina made new friends, learning the language at a pace Layla envied. While Amina flourished at school, Layla faced her own challenges. The job market was unforgiving, especially for a refugee woman with no formal documents and a significant language barrier. Even so, Layla refused to be discouraged. She found strength in her small support network, consisting of other refugees and a few kind neighbors who saw the effort and determination in her eyes. One of those neighbors was Tomas, a middle-aged man who had recently lost his wife and lived alone. Though they didn't speak the same language at first, Tomas's kindness transcended cultural barriers. He began helping Layla and Amina with small gestures, bringing food, offering rides, and eventually teaching Layla words in the local language. Over time, he became a father figure in their lives. Despite the new connections and the progress she made, the past continued to haunt Layla. The memories of war, the loss of her husband, and the uncertainty of his fate weighed heavily on her heart. Each night before falling asleep, she wondered where he might be, whether he was still alive or if she would ever see him again. This uncertainty was like a constant shadow, dimming even the brightest moments of joy. One day, Layla received an unexpected letter from an organization that searched for missing people. There were clues that her husband might be in a prisoner camp in a neighboring country. The news ignited a flicker of hope, but also brought a new wave of anguish. If he were alive, what would it be like to reunite with him? After so much time and suffering, how could they rebuild their lives together? This uncertainty left Layla torn. She knew she needed to move forward for Amina's sake, but she also felt that she couldn't rest until she knew the truth about her husband's fate. With the support of Nadia, Tomas, and her new friends, Layla began the process of investigating the situation and possibly finding a way to locate her husband. Months passed as Layla waited for news about her husband. During this time, she managed to get a modest job in a local cafe, where, despite still struggling with the language, her friendliness and dedication were quickly recognized by customers. Layla began to feel part of that community, and Amina thrived at school, surprising her mother with her growth and fluency in the language. Then one day, the long-awaited news finally arrived. Layla's husband, Khaled, had been found in a prisoner camp. He was alive but weak and in need of medical care. The news brought a mixture of relief and anxiety. Layla had never lost hope of finding him, but now, with reality before her, she felt afraid. How would he be? And how would she bring him back? With the support of her community, Layla managed to raise the necessary resources to bring Khaled back. The reunion was emotional, but also filled with uncertainty. Khaled had changed, just as she had. The years of separation and suffering had left deep scars on both of them, and now they would have to rediscover each other amid the trauma of war. With Khaled's return, Layla's life took a new direction. The road to Khaled's recovery was long, both physically and emotionally. He had lost much of his physical strength during his years in captivity, and the mental trauma still haunted him. But Layla was not willing to give up. She found a strength she didn't know she had, and with the help of her friends, her community, and Amina, she helped Khaled rebuild his life. Their relationship was no longer the same as it had been before the war. There were challenges to overcome, but their love and determination were stronger. Together, they began to build a new life, now in peace, but always remembering the horrors they had faced and the importance of never losing hope. As time passed, Layla and Khaled became active voices in the refugee community, helping other families who, like them, were seeking refuge and a new life. Their experience became a source of inspiration for others, showing that despite the darkest adversities, it was possible to find strength in hope, love, and community. Layla, who once could barely imagine a future outside her homeland, now looked with pride at the life she had rebuilt. She had not only survived, she had thrived and become a beacon of hope for so many others. The Refuge of Hope was not just in a safe place, but in human connections, mutual support, and the determination to keep going, even when everything seemed lost.